Hi everyone, I hope everyone's having a good day. I am going to be talking about The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I'm firstly going to get into the background of the novel. Plath originally published The Bell Jar in 1963 and she did it under a pen name of Victoria Lucas. She did this because the story was so deeply personal to her and such a deep reflection of her life. And she was scared of her family, specifically her mother, getting a deeper and more intimate view and outlook on her real emotions and thoughts. The story follows Esther Greenwood. She's a young woman who is navigating life and her mental health and societal pressures around that time, which was in the 1950s. She tries to discover herself outside of those stereotypical boxes. I found it so unique reading something from somebody who was from that time and didn't agree with what was normalized. Now I want to talk more about Sylvia Plath, the woman behind the words. She was born on October 27th, 1932 in Boston, Massachusetts. And unfortunately, she died on February 11th, 1963, in London, England, by suicide after battling severe depression for many years. This came after the separation of her husband, Ted Hughes. She had already had a long history of mental health issues and depression and possibly bipolar disorder, and the separation of her husband and caring for her two young children caused her a lot of emotional strain. I think this is one of those situations where it's not one thing that caused it, it's a buildup of so much stress and pain and societal expectations and identity struggles falling into one and finally hitting that point. Her writing is known for being incredibly personal and vulnerable. She's somebody who has battled with severe depression her entire life and has tried to commit suicide multiple times before her death in 1963. Sylvia channeled those feelings of imprisonment and put them in the bell jar, reflecting her personal struggles and the pressures that she felt around that time in her life. After looking through her journals and letters, it becomes very apparent that she drew a lot of inspiration from her real life when writing the bell jar, which makes it so much more personal and reflective. The next thing that I would like to talk about is life in the mid 20th century. This was not an easy time to live in for women, especially somebody that is struggling with mental health issues. Around this time, there was very little emphasis on mental health, and most of the time it was brushed off as nerves and hysteria by many doctors. And if you did admit that you had issues, you'd immediately be labeled as crazy and socially alienated. It was such a scary thought because there were risks of being divorced or even being institutionalized. There was also an immense amount of pressure of finding a husband and having children, and it didn't leave a lot of room for women to have personal ambitions or to thrive on their own, which is what Sylvia really craved. I would now like to talk about a quote that really resonated with me. The quote is, "I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death, just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose." And at first read, it may be a little confusing, but when you dig a little deeper, it actually holds a lot of meaning. And what I took from it is that each fig represents a life path or a dream of hers, and there's a lot of hesitation and anxiety weighing on her because she doesn't know which one to pick. I think this moment stems from Plath's fears of failure and making the wrong choices, and generally just being stuck in a rut and not living a life that she had dreamed of. I immediately connected with this because I feel like I struggle with the same thing. I'm very indecisive, and I never know if the path I'm taking is the one that I really want to go down long term, and there's so many things I want to try, and it's hard to just stick to one thing. Also, the pressure that she puts on herself is something that I really relate to too. So it was really nice to see somebody else's perspective on this and to see it worded in such a beautiful way. I'd now like to talk about the impact that the bell jar has had on so many. This novel has seriously shed so much light and brought attention to depression, suicidal thoughts, and so many other mental health issues that were rarely talked about or discussed publicly in the 1960s. It also opened up a lot of conversations about mental health and talking more about your struggles and helping reduce the stigma of it. And I think the most amazing part of the book is that it's helped so many people who are dealing with similar issues. And a lot of readers have found comfort in seeing their own feelings reflected in Esther's story. And they've felt like for the first time they feel understood in literature, which is so amazing and impactful. I really enjoyed reading this book and doing a deeper dive into Sylvia Plath's words and her life. So I thank you for listening to me, and I hope everyone has a good day.